Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Tempe City Council work study session. Item number 1 is call to order. Council meetings can be watched in real time via Cox Cable Channel 11 and at tempe.gov/tempe11. Members of the public may also attend the meeting virtually through Microsoft Teams. Guidelines for conduct at City Council meetings are on the table near the entrance for those in attendance at tonight's meeting. We will now play a video with the proper protocol for ensuring the appropriate conduct at City Council meetings.
The City of Tempe welcomes public comment at this time. Disruptive behavior will not be allowed. Continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. We need to be able to hear everyone in the room. Behavior that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of any city council meeting is not helpful and is not permitted. This includes behavior both inside and outside of the council chambers. Should individuals inside the council chambers become disruptive so that city business is not able to be conducted, the mayor will first ask that the individuals allow city business to be completed. There will be time for public comment during the call to the audience portion of the meeting. If no cooperation, the mayor will issue a verbal warning and let them know that the continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If there is still no cooperation, the mayor will issue a second verbal warning and let them know that the continued disruptive behavior will lead to removal from the council chambers. If there is no cooperation after asking and 2 verbal warnings, then the mayor will ask security officers to remove only those individuals who are causing the disruption. Security personnel should not engage in any way, but only escort them from the council chambers. If individuals refuse to leave, security personnel shall warn them that they are trespassing and that the next step will be arrest by a Tempe police officer. Tempe officers may have to arrest if individuals refuse to leave. Charges for trespass and disorderly conduct may apply, as well as other charges. Should anyone be asked to be removed, the mayor will recess the meeting.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item number 2, which is call to the audience. The City Council welcomes public comment at this time for the issue review session and committee of the whole items on this work study session agenda. There is a 3-minute limit per speaker. Once again, I'm going to call these in the order in which I received them. The first speaker this evening is virtual. It's David Sokolowski.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you please state your name and place of residence? You have 3 minutes.
My name is David Sokolowski. I live in Tempe. I wasn't going to provide comment today because I already did that. At a previous work study, I talked about cars flying off the streets, and I said we need a more comprehensive approach to public safety. I'm disappointed the city plans to spend $220 million to pave the streets without engineering safe systems. I changed my mind because this week an SUV went through a brick wall and crashed into a tree right where I live. The bricks alone could have seriously injured someone or killed a small kid. An SUV can weigh 2,000 pounds more than a car, and that makes them more dangerous. An electric SUV would add 4,000 pounds of weight. Even traveling at 25 miles per hour would still be considered high risk. So I have to repeat, we live in a city where cars fly off the streets. We need a more comprehensive approach to public safety. We need to reduce speed limits citywide. We need traffic calming, we need speed cameras, and more. We need to do better than simply paving the streets to improve travel speeds, which will harm public safety. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. The next speaker I have is also virtual. It's Kendra Flory.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
I am Kendra Flory, and I am a Tempe resident. Thank you, council and staff, for hearing our comments. As a Tempe resident and a mom and a cyclist and a pedestrian, I was really excited to read the agenda item about the city-led neighborhood traffic calming program. And I just wanted to express my continued support of data-driven, research-based approaches to traffic mitigation, calming, and accident reduction. In research as recently as 2019, collisions with pedestrians and cyclists accounted for the greatest proportion of all fatalities on urban roads and streets. Therefore, protecting pedestrians and cyclists should be our top priority. In addition to lowering speeds, that study, which was completed by AAA, suggests that speed management programs or countermeasures such as chicanes and pinch points would prevent or reduce these accidents. I'm in favor of more infrastructure changes like those that the city has already implemented along College from Broadway to Southern. As an aside, I just wanted to point out, I recognize and appreciate the goal of Vision Zero in reduction of fatalities and serious injuries, but I just want to remind our leaders that non-serious injuries also affect cyclists and pedestrians, especially those that involve children or people who commute via bike or walking as a necessity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker we have this evening is Hannah Moulton Black. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm following two of my favorite neighbors. My name is Hannah Moulton Black. I live in Tempe, and I wanted to also address you on Vision Zero. I have been a bike commuter for my entire career, both in the Washington, D.C. area and here in Tempe. I became more active in advocating for bike and pedestrian safety when I began biking my kids to school and found that biking on College Avenue can be pretty scary, especially if kids are with you. My friend and I co-founded the Broadmoor Bike Bus, a monthly group ride to school to increase bike volume on College and advocate for engineering solutions to car speed. On College, we see a staggering volume of cut-through traffic, reckless speeding, and cars disregarding the fact that it's a 2-lane road. They frequently pass each other in the bike lane during school drop-off. And clearly this unsafe driving behavior is not unique to College Ave. According to Smart Growth, America's Dangerous by Design report, Arizona is the 4th most dangerous state to be a pedestrian. We've had more than 1,000 pedestrian deaths between 2016 and 2020. Zooming in on Tempe, in my neighborhood around College and Southern, we've had about 20 reported injuries and even a fatality in the square mile around where I live in the last year. Some of the labeled causes of those injuries did not use crosswalk. There are only pedestrian crossings at about the half-mile mark in almost any direction from this area. Tempe voters just overwhelmingly passed the general plan for more density, better transit options, and bike and pedestrian infrastructure. But now we need to really commit to connecting the dots to make Tempe a 20-minute city to access schools, local businesses, and human services. That means making areas of current and proposed higher density look and feel friendlier to non-vehicle traffic, or if at least not friendly, not terrifying. The solutions to this, in my opinion, are not in enforcement, or certainly not in enforcement alone. They are in engineering. These are just a few of the things I'd like to see in my area. Leading pedestrian signals along College Avenue, Alameda Drive, and all the designated bike boulevards to give pedestrians and cyclists a head start before the light turns green for vehicles. Expansion of the pilot candlestick project on College Ave, which separates the bike lane from traffic, and which I know my neighbors and I really strongly support and appreciate the city working on. Hawk beacon crossings, pedestrian refuge islands, curb extension, and rapid flashing beacons to fix missing connections across arterials for routes to school, shopping, and services. No right turn on red arrows at intersections we know are especially dangerous, and more pedestrian scrambles like the great pilot project here at 5th and Mill. Vision Zero is meaningless without taking the evidence-based actions we know will make everyone traveling in Tempe safer. Please prioritize engineering solutions that will slow down vehicle traffic and encourage more biking, walking, and rolling around Tempe. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have this evening is Katie Bolligitz. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Woods and City Council members. My name is Katie Bolligitz. I live in Tempe, and I'm the Vice President of the Tempe Bicycle Action Group. We are very glad to see more attention paid to Vision Zero. These people killed on our streets are our friends, our neighbors, our family, and one death is too many. So now it's up to you to implement safe streets for all of us. As you know, and many people ahead of me already said, speed kills. Many crashes can be avoided if we slow down and have more time to react. Studies show that getting hit at 20 miles per hour leads to a 10% likelihood of death or serious injury. That chance jumps to 80% if the speed is at 40 miles per hour. This study was done in the early 2000s, and it doesn't account for the fact that cars have gotten bigger and heavier since then. Therefore, we support the focus on automated enforcement. It reduces bias in the policing. However, studies show that speed cameras are more impactful than red light cameras. We also recommend that the city uses the revenue generated from these speed cameras to improve the streets where those cameras are located by implementing safer infrastructure there. We are supportive of the Neighborhood Calming Initiative. These streets are where we live, where our kids play, where we interact as a community. Let's give these streets to the neighbors. I thank you for your time tonight, and our organization can be involved in this project going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's all the speaker cards I have this evening. Is there anyone else in the audience this evening who wishes to address the city council? If so, please get my attention. All right, seeing none, I will close that portion of the meeting and move on to item number 3, which is the issue review session. Just want to very quickly note a correction in the agenda this evening too. For item 3A, which is Tempe Stat Vision Zero, the proposed photo enforcement intersections attachment in the agenda packet listed 2 incorrect locations, but however, the map itself is correct. So I'm going to read these corrections into the record as follows, just so everyone here and at home can hear. So the 3rd location, which is labeled Rural and McClintock, should be corrected to Scottsdale and Curry. And the 6th location, labeled Curry and College, should be corrected to McClintock and Broadway. So just wanted to make sure that I note that. I can also maybe note that at the end as well, but just so everyone hears that that's a change we are making. But as I said before, those are the corrections, but the map in the packet is correct for the audience. With that said, I'm going to move on to item 3A here, which is Tempe Stat Vision Zero. And do I have city staff? Oh, there we go. Okay, I see Chief Reese and Eric Iverson. Oh, Lieutenant Hayes, good to see you. This one. White House up here.
More space.
Get in here, get close. Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Greg Reese, Interim Deputy City Manager, and joining me today is our Strategic Management and Innovation Director, Waddell Holmes, Sustainability and Resilience Director, Eric Iverson, and Police Lieutenant Mike Hayes. Since February of 2018, when the City of Tempe made a commitment to the Vision Zero initiative, our goal has been clear: to eliminate all traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries while also promoting safe and healthy mobility across the city. The Vision Zero, thank you. You watch out for me. The Vision Zero Task Force has made significant progress in pursuing this goal. 6 months ago, City Manager Inchausti challenged the Tempe Stat Vision Zero Task Force to re-examine and enhance our strategies, ensuring we are employing the most effective approaches to achieve our strategic objectives. Today, we are here to update you on some of the key strategies, accomplishments, and upcoming initiatives that will further strengthen our efforts towards a safer Tempe. Specifically, we will be recommending the approval of 2 new programs: the Photo Enforcement Program and the City-Led Neighborhood Traffic Calming Program. Both are designed to reduce risk factors and improve safety on our roads. Additionally, we plan to seek your approval at a future. Additionally, we plan to seek your approval for the photo enforcement contract at an upcoming regular council meeting. Let us now share with you the more details about the Tempe Stat approach we have undertaken, the outcomes of these efforts, and what we have learned from our ongoing activities. This information will provide you with a comprehensive view of our program and a path forward as we continue to strive for 0 fatalities and serious injuries in our community. If you can, please hold your questions until we conclude the presentation, and we will answer them all at that time. Thank you. Waddell, move it forward.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Waddell Holmes, Strategic Management and Innovation Director. I would like to share with you today some of the work that we're doing in regards to your council priority and performance measure related to fatal and serious injury crashes. Recent data and recent events have shown that these events are increasing in our community. And as part of City Manager Rosa Inchausti's appointment last year, she made a commitment that she would develop and implement a data-driven strategy leadership model for the city of Tempe. What this model does is it advances high-value strategies, and I'd like to share a little bit more with you about that. For the inaugural Tempe STAT program, City Manager, maybe not yet, City Manager Rosen Chelsea selected this performance measure for fatal and serious injury crashes. And this was to address community vulnerabilities that she shared with the City Council and the community upon her appointment. Tempe STAT Vision Zero is a data-driven leadership strategy. Similar to the operation systems that you have for your computers, this modern model focuses on people, process, and operations, and really is a leadership behavioral system. It's designed to advance commitment and engagement across our organization and our community. It's supported by champions and top leadership. It's elevated buy-in and support across multiple departments, as you can see by the members of our task force. And mainly, we're focusing relentlessly on progress, resolution, and sustained results. We conduct sessions every other week with subject matter experts in their field. And this work continues the work that was started in 2018 by our transportation engineering department, our police department, and specifically our traffic engineers. So I just wanted to honor that work. We are focused on 3 primary strategic directions. These are also modeled after the Vision International framework. And tonight we'd like to share with you some highlights about our education directions, our engineering strategies, as well as some of our enforcement strategies. So thank you, and I'll turn that over to Eric.
Thanks, Wydell. I'm going to go through, I think, the next 4 slides. Again, I'm Eric Iverson with Transportation and Sustainability. I'm going to go through a couple education components to the Vision Zero program, as well as engineering. The education, you all have seen it. This is everything from the banners that you see up around the city that have been moving around our community, very visible on our arterial streets. We're doing all the social media outreach that is typical that you're all familiar with as well. We have been also, our staff's been reaching out to different groups like Tempe Bicycle Action Group. I think you heard from one of their board members tonight. We're also talking to at least 3 of our high schools, engaging that youth voice so that they're weighing in on this issue as well. And you know that we're hearing from youth in the community. They're asking for bicycle pedestrian improvements as well. More on the education. So part of the education is informing people how fast they're going on our streets. So you can see here this map is showing, the yellow arrows are showing where we're putting in permanent speed feedback signs. These tell you how fast you're going when you're in your car. We have them, our traffic engineering staff has really located these next to where we have some of the highest speeds in the city, and then coming off of the freeways, entering into our city, these locations where you're kind of capturing them as soon as they enter into our city, into our neighborhoods, and giving them that feedback, that speed feedback. Hey, you're in our community now, you're in the neighborhood, and really building up that recognition of the speed that you're traveling when you enter into those areas. On the engineering side, wanted to share, and I think most of you are familiar with this, but we have introduced, there's a new staff position that was approved a couple years ago to really look at and augment all the traffic engineering that we're doing in the city. This new program, this active traffic management, is really off hours, major event times, weekends, graduation, major things that might be happening in our community, as well as just observing outside of the regular work hours when we have big congestion issues, and being able to really react in real time to adjusting signal times, coordinating with police department, others that might need to be engaged. So really trying to be more nimble, being more rapid response in how we're handling our traffic day after day. And then finally, and this one kind of touches on the point that Deputy City Manager Ruiz talked about with this more rapid response and city-led, engaged neighborhood traffic calming. So Vision Zero is really focused on our arterial, our major streets, our faster streets, our more congested streets. This component of traffic engineering in transportation is really looking at our neighborhood streets. You're all hearing a lot of that feedback from our neighbors about wanting to have different improvements. You heard some of those comments tonight. We do have a dedicated team. For years, we kind of tag teamed neighborhood traffic calming. We have a dedicated staff member working on it. 3 years ago, you can see here, we had over 100 requests. We now have down to 20 active requests. So we've made a lot of progress on addressing those and getting solutions for people. You can see the solutions, some of the pictures of solutions that we offer the community. So we're not just doing speed cushions, we're trying to do other things that might be beneficial in other ways, like introduction of trees, water harvesting, public art, along with traffic calming. So trying to be really holistic in how we're addressing traffic calming in neighborhoods. I think I'm handing over to Mike Hayes.
Mayor, Council, thank you for having us today. So we're going to go over the enforcement aspects of this a little bit, but first and foremost, I'd like to just to say a few things in the beginning that we have been working on this since 2018 diligently, but I would like to thank the city manager for bringing this to the forefront of what we're doing as a collective approach to the whole department and getting the highest people in the entire city at the table to be able to discuss these things. It was extremely important, and I think it's going to have some really positive dividends for it. As we know, through this program, it's education and enforcement and structural engineering that we're trying to work on. And enforcement's a small point of this part, but a very important part. And so we'll kind of go over some of the things that we've done in the last couple of years. So we kind of did everything from calendar year 22 to 23. And you can see under our chief's guidance here that the whole city raised their proactive activity stops 32%. That's a huge increase, and I think it's a really good positive sign of the direction for the police department. And I think we all know that proactive stops are anytime officers are going out and stopping people for a legal reason where a violation has occurred, and they're holding them accountable, giving education and giving warnings, and so that's a really good sign. As we move into the Vision Zero corridors, you can see that in the middle part of the slide that we increased in those 4 Vision Zero corridors last year that we worked for an entire year, we increased our proactivity about 35%. That's a little deceiving because 2 of those corridors we worked for 2 years in a row. So we had a big increases in 22, and then we had even another set of increases in 23. So once again, another good sign that we're really working on this area. And then it was really interesting because I think what the city manager has brought on to us is our ability to experiment and to think outside the box and how we can do better things for the community and really experiment with how we're working on things. So engineering and the police department, the PIOs, and all the team got together and figured out that these signs may be a different way that we can educate people. And so as you saw in the last, and this will go on to further slides, the importance of it, but in the past years, there was one big yellow sign at the beginning of each corridor. If you blinked or missed it, you didn't see it, right? And you kept going. And so the team got together and thought these safety banners that would be strewn across the whole streets would be a much bigger indicator and educational component for this. So we did try that for October through December of last year, just to see if it would work. And so this doesn't really show that. This just shows the typical increase when we work in area, when our uniform resources work in area, that the proactive increase was about 89% in that area. And you'll kind of see some of the dividends later with the signage combination. These are the numbers from last year. We did not have a good total. The process, it was good, but the wrecks were very high last year. We had 50 serious physical injury or fatality wrecks last year. I think there was 37 the year before. This kind of indicates in those corridors, though, how those actually worked out. And so total collisions went up 19% in the corridors, but collisions with injuries stayed level, which with the amount of serious physical injury and fatalities across the city, it was kind of a pretty good sign that worked. And then serious physical injury or fatalities, they did go up 50%, but as you can see, those are pretty low numbers. They're from 4 to 6. So once again, we kind of were thinking about how are we working this and how can we make this better. And so instead of doing 4 for the entire year, we decided to work them in each on a quarter and do 4 a quarter and change that every quarter so that we do 16 sets of roadways throughout the year instead of just 4. And so that was another difference that we're doing this year as opposed to last year with the new signage. These play. Oh, okay, we just added still shots. So here you can kind of see the depiction of it. That was the sign that was on the left-hand side in 2023. There was nothing else on the mile stretch of roadway. And on the right hand, you can kind of see how you can see those signs. They continue and keep going on forever. So this kind of shows the dividends that got paid with doing the enforcement of that 89% increase in proactivity as well as the new signage. that we're getting there. And you can see through October, December in that experimental area that total collisions went down 12%, injuries, collisions went down 35%, and serious physical injuries also went down 25%. So a good sign that some of the experimentation is working. That wasn't enough for us as an entire group, and especially in the police department, and our chief recognized that we did have a lot of work to do, and so he gathered our leadership team, and they did a really good job asking us to find out more ways to increase safety in the city of Tempe. And so what we did was we created a program called Operation Slowdown, which we decided because of all these major wrecks throughout the entire area of the city, we already had our 4 Vision Zero corridors, but we wanted to make a bigger impact with all of operational services. And we decided to work Rural Road, which is right in the heart of the city. And everybody with a uniform has been directed to go out at the chief's request to go out and improve safety in those areas by making contacts, educating people, and holding people accountable. That's all the way from Chandler all the way to Scottsdale to work Rural Road. And you can kind of see how that worked out as well. A huge, in blue is the increase in actual contacts and stops, and it went from 617 last year in that time period to 1,596, gigantic increase. And you can see how the wrecks went down from 155 to 84, so a 46% decrease. So a good sign, and it was good that the chief got everyone to collaborate in the city and work on this. And I think that, once again, another thing that's paying gigantic dividends. As everybody knows, and I know this is a huge concern for all of the people in Tempe, it's a huge concern for me. It's a huge concern. I know a lot of us have children that drive out here, and this has been, for the last couple of years, street racing has become such a hot button topic, and not only because of the annoyance of noise. I think it started out that a couple years ago. We had a lot of complaints on noise. But then when we started really delving into it and going to these calls and getting there early, we would see there was a lot of violent actions that were coming on too. We had an incident last year where just a witness was watching this and got ripped out of the car, and they started doing donuts with that person's car. We've had shootings at different sites where these people are hanging out at. And then the other thing that makes it extremely dangerous is which is a concern for me with a youngster at home, is that there's a lot of kids, unbeknownst to them, of the dangers of these aspects of these kids doing donuts and traveling with huge cars at high rates of speeds, that they get in circles around them, whether they're at intersections or parks or parking lots or things like that, and they don't have any idea of the danger aspect, and they go to watch this. But at any one point, and we've seen on video, kids getting hit by these cars doing these donuts. And so that is something that is unacceptable to us. And as a parent, it makes me, makes a lot of us put even more energy into this. So about a year ago, we started, but it has to be a collaborative effect. So we started working with the city of Phoenix, who has a full-time task force. And so as you can see, last year we started working with Phoenix, and in 12 months we did 271 street racing charges, which is pretty big. We concentrated quite a bit on that. And I think it did make a good dent in what we were doing. But as the months and months came on and in the beginning of the year, it did seem to be getting a little bit more violent. It became more cultural in our society. And the chief, once again, and our administrative team in the police department said, that's it, we're going to have to give more resources to this. So we started an internal task force in the City of Tempe Police Department, and now we've been working it predominantly at night. And you can see the kind of, once again, the effects of that. In 12 months before, there was 271 street racing charges, and already in like the 4 weeks that we've started this program, we've got 98 charges. And it's kind of a twofold kind of thing. We're holding people accountable. We're spending the resources to hold these people accountable, but also as part of this process, according to law, we can tow these vehicles, which is also holding the owners of these vehicles accountable when they get that car back. So our hopes are that many parents own these vehicles, and by signing the waiver to get that car back, they're hopefully limiting what the people that are using that car are using that car for. So it's holding people accountable at a variety of different levels. So that's been wildly successful, and we're going to continue to do that until it's not a problem, in the city of Tempe, because it's too dangerous. There's a lot of other things in that, working with Parks and Rec and closing off parks at certain times, that has really been extremely beneficial. But once again, this is a huge collaborative effect within the whole city to try to stop this. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. I didn't realize to stop real quick.
That's okay. So, as I said, when we got back together earlier this year, we started to have some discussions about what else can we do. What else can we do to combat some of this, or at least make the streets safer here in the city of Tempe. One of the things that we floated in one of the meetings was photo radar. And at that point, overwhelmingly, the team said, let's look into it. Let's see if it's something for us. Let's see if it's not a strategy or a tool we can use to change behaviors in the city of Tempe, driving behaviors. So we didn't take this lightly. We all went to, we communicated with our city partners around us that have photo radar programs in place. We even went to Vera Mobility and spent a morning there communicating with them. I spent countless hours communicating with the representatives at Vera Mobility, as well as one of our city partners. One of our city partners that I'm speaking of is the city of Scottsdale. When I say partners, they were renewing their contract, which had a cooperative agreement in it, and on April 1st, it became effective. So part of what the ask tonight is obviously for the approval for us to continue to move forward with photo enforcement with the program, but at a future meeting for us to come back with that contract and seek your approval. Within that contract, I'll give you some of the high-level things that we have looked at and what we're working with them on. That is, the city representatives are working with Vera. We have identified through our city engineering has identified 14 intersections that we'd like to place the cameras in. So those intersections we didn't throw a dart at a map here. Engineering evaluates the ratio of serious or fatal accidents per 1,000 vehicles that travel through an intersection. So we have identified what we think are some of our most dangerous intersections. That'll be 14 intersections, 16 cameras, and we would also have 4 mobile cameras that we could move around school zones or areas that we believe we need that type of assistance in convincing people to slow down. Staffing gaps. We've identified staffing gaps. We know that we're going to need workforce. We communicated with our neighboring cities that have programs and what kind of workload that puts on our workforce to be able to process these citations. We know that in the courts, we're going to need 2 people, and in the police department, we're going to need 7 more employees. How will we do that? We have evaluated what we believe when the program matures will be our cost offsets, what we'll be able to combat our cost offsets with. And when I say mature, 12 months into the program, we know that we're going to see a spike, and then people, we hope, will change their behaviors, and we'll see it plateau out. At that time, we believe that we should be cost neutral with the program. So, next steps, or in conclusion, as I started off with, really the ask today is for Mayor and Council to approve us to continue in moving forward with the photo enforcement program, and for us to be able to continue to move forward with the city-led neighborhood traffic calming program. And again, we'll be back with more information. That is, you'll have it in your packet as we put the contract together and more information to support that contract at a future meeting. On behalf of the task force, we want to thank you very much for your ongoing support. And I said something at the beginning here, and that is, I've been here for a while and I've sat in these meetings, and since 2018, he's in the audience here. I want to recognize Julian for the passion he had in kicking this program off, and I hope we're making him proud. We are now ready to take questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, I'm going to go in the order as I received them. Let me go Vice Mayor Adams, Councilmember Navarro, and Councilmember Hodge.
Thank you for a wonderful presentation. This is one of my top priorities, and you guys are right on. I want to just make a few comments. Over 42,000 people are killed in the U.S. every year on our roads. So this is a national problem, and I'm just really appreciate you guys doing everything we can to save lives in our community. I love the neighborhood streets and calming. I've been asking for that for many years now, and under the leadership of Rosa Inchausti, we're now getting it done. And I can tell you that I had worked on an area for getting people to slow down for 3 years with the gentleman that happens to be an expert in traffic enforcement, and I could not get it done. I couldn't get it done on his road. I saw the speeders myself when I walked the neighborhoods, and after Rosa took over, we were able to get it done. So my hats off to our city manager for taking action and getting things completed. that was a big frustration of mine. And now we're getting things done, and it's important. If people are getting hit by cars, they're getting killed, and it's got to stop. So what you're doing is going to save lives, and it's obvious with the statistics that you presented tonight that you are doing that. So hats off to you on that. I mean, the 32% increase in stops, unbelievable. It's just what I've been preaching for so many years, and it just means so much to me that you guys are doing this now. And the crackdown on the drag racing in our neighborhood where I live, I was getting inundated with texts and calls at all hours about the racing and the noise that it was making. And now people are seeing people pulled over, and there hasn't been any noise. I was talking to the chiefs, previous chief and our current chief about it regularly, and we've got to do something because people are going to get killed, and you could just hear how fast they were going. Because I live right on rural roads, so I was firsthand. But our entire neighborhood is now talking about it. Hey, what happened to the noise? And I mean, that is amazing, because most of the time people have complaints, as of course that's normal. But now they're like really thanking us for quieting the neighborhoods down, and so that is real life circumstances, and people are noticing. I want to thank the chief for his leadership with this issue and taking it seriously, and the entire team for taking it seriously. With the street racing, I would like to see us keep their cars, because for me, if it's like giving a gun back to a killer. I mean, we don't let them have weapons anymore after they hurt somebody. And this, as far as I'm concerned, they're killing people. So I would like to have us keep their cars permanently and sell them, and then make some money off of it. Because if they're going to do this, why, and endanger our community, then you know what? Let's have a bigger hammer on that. That way they can't have that car anymore. I'm very supportive of the photo enforcement and the city-led calming programs, and you have my 100% approval and appreciation. And I just really, from the bottom of my heart, I really, really do believe we're going to save lives. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Let me go to Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the Vice Mayor kind of said it all. Good job. No, guys, great thought process. I mean, as we heard from members from the audience and stuff, what are we doing? How are we going about things? You guys have really taken this serious, obviously. There's still always more work, right? And these are great steps. And we have to also acknowledge the fact that we're making steps with X amount of money, with X amount of volunteers, with X amount of staff, with X amount of, so these things have, real impact on other areas also, but we're making that known here in the city of Tempe that we take this stuff serious, just as the Vice Mayor said. I commend the chief for the concentration of, I just was, when I'm thinking, Mike, when the presentation was said, hey, we concentrate on rural road. Smart idea. I mean, use your resources wisely. It was just, I was like, smart idea. So, I mean, those things make a true difference. And that's the road that's going to send the message. People are going to visit up and down that road pretty soon. And just like the banners up and down the road on even on Mill, but also on, or Rural, it does. You do look at it, you read it, you slow down, you kind of don't want to be that guy, right? And those things have an impact. Coming off the freeway with the speed, you don't want to be that guy. Little things like that. But at the end of the day, I wish we could say we could stop everyone, right? When a guy drives 152 miles an hour down Rural Road, what do you do with that? And 2 people die. What do you do with that? So we can only control so much. And hopefully people can understand the impacts they have when they do high-speed travel, especially with racing and stuff like that. So kudos to you guys. Thanks for enhancing and enlightening, us, but everyone out there too. Keep on with the strong work. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you. Let me just go to Councilmember Hodge.
Okay. First off, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody in the city. Rosa, thank you. Chief, thanks everybody who's worked on this. Eric, great for putting the schools in. That's going to be my thing. My question, I have a question, actually. I wanted to just thank you, but I have a question. With the street racing, is that considered a felony or a misdemeanor? And when does it go to the other one? Just curious, you know.
We moved for
Yeah, that's not me.
You want to move to? I'm moving away from that question.
Yeah.
Can I?
It's a misdemeanor, but then the sentences are enhanced as they get caught multiple times.
Okay.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
So.
You want to say something before I go my
No,
next
I was thinking, isn't criminal speeding like 20 miles an hour over the limit pretty much?
Yep. So there's a bunch of different charges they get charged with, though. They get charged with street racing.
That's what I was talking about, the street racing.
Yeah, they get charged with street racing, but they
Right.
also get charged with excessive speed, sometimes reckless driving. It
Yeah, that's
depends
what I was
what
asking.
they're exactly doing
Yeah.
and where they are. Are they in a parking lot or, as opposed to the roadway? So they have multiple charges that we have in our tool belt to hold them accountable.
Okay, my second part to that question is, how many of them are minors, if we have any percentages on how much are minors? And if we do have a percentage of minors, is it a possible way that we can start working with our SROs in our schools to have more education around street racing and getting that inputted? Because I know our SROs already teach courses, and I don't think that's a part of it. So I would like for maybe that can be some kind of education, proactive education on it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't have those numbers of exactly how old they are. It is a younger crowd that is doing it, up to young to 30, and a lot of people that are watching are younger. So it's interesting you said that today, and you all sent your aides today to a meeting we had with the Tempe High School District, and it was an extremely productive meeting today. And as a group, we all understand that. And I think the residents said it best, is that enforcement is, you can't enforce your way out of this problem, right? You have to change cultures, and especially of young people. And so one of the things that engineering did that was really good this year was they went to MIAC, and they asked them what would impact the youth in our community, and how do we get the youth to change their behaviors moving forward? And they gave us they gave engineering a couple good suggestions regarding storytelling and emotion and touching on people's emotions. So we had gotten with MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, everybody knows that. We had gotten with them, and they do a couple really good presentations, including testimonials from people that have been injured or had family members killed. So we had a meeting today, and the Tempe School District is extremely supportive of what we're going to do. Is we want to do this every single year for all grade levels through the high schools, and then maybe start in the middle schools as well.
That's what I was going.
But half of the program, about an hour presentation, half of it is very much on driving behaviors, alcohol, impairment, things of that nature. And then the second half is a testimonial from a mother that lost her son in Flagstaff, and she gives a whole presentation on that. It's an extremely powerful presentation. I mean, it's even to hear the MAD person tell it is kind of, it chokes you up. So we're going to try to do that for everybody in the Tempe School District and the 6 high schools for next year. And then also we want to have MAD come out and do another presentation that they have, and they've agreed to do it for prom.
Yes.
So between the two of those, and then we also talked about the SROs then going more individually to the schools and start talking about, and we've committed our motor officers too to helping out with that, to go in and talk about specific rules like you're talking about, the excessive speeds, all these things that are causing, and even some penalty things like, hey, this is what happens from it. So
I agree with you, and I love the fact that you talked to MIAC, but I'll be honest with you, you don't hit the same type of students, and I've been given that feedback that when you talk to MIAC students only, they don't represent the general population of students. They're up here, and the general population is in the middle. So we got to find other ways around to speak to the general population of our students to bring them into the conversation. That's why I asked those questions.
I don't disagree with you. And to start this program, because you bring up a really good point. So what was decided on is that we're hoping in mid-May, we're working with the Tempe Coalition to have a focus group that we're going to put out to all middle school and high school kids and their parents. And we're hoping to do it at the movie theaters down off, I think, Elliott, McClintock, those movie theaters that are down there. And have a night where everyone can come in, serve them pizza and water, and have them see this presentation to see how it is, and they'll do surveys, and if we have to manipulate it a little bit. But I do agree with you. Let's get a bigger sample size of what they're looking for.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you so much. Next up, Councilmember Garland.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. I have a couple thoughts. So a couple weeks ago, I attended the Arizona Bicycling Summit with Kathy Hollow, and the topic of that, pretty much every course that whole entire day was discussion on safety on the roads. They talked about complete streets and how it should feel safe for everybody using the street, people in cars, bikes, walkers. They talked about, they had 5 criterias that they looked at. It's remove severe conflicts, slow traffic with physical features, separate conflicts in time, increase attentiveness and awareness, and implement speed enforcing strategies. And what's incredible about the presentation that you all have done tonight is that you have hit on every single one of those. It's not a surprise to me at all that the city of Tempe is already leading in those areas. So I'm really glad that you gave this presentation to talk about the things that we're going to be doing. I completely support what you guys are doing with the photo enforcement, and I back that. I will support you in that. I appreciate the stepped up Vision Zero programs and everything that we're doing with the task force. When Joel and I started looking and addressing Vision Zero, when we started our Human Services and Community Safety Committee, this has moved so incredibly far from when we just discussed it in our meetings to what you're doing now. So I just want to say thank you so much. People on the road, our cyclists and our walkers are going to be so much safer with these changes. I do appreciate that Hannah did come in and talk about the candlesticks. I still think that we realize that paint is not infrastructure when we're looking out for the safety of our cyclists on the road. So candlesticks are great. I'd still like to see more protected bike lanes, but I think we're moving in the right direction to try to slow people down and get out the education. So I really appreciate what you guys presented. Thank you.
Thank you so much. On 1. Thank you so much. Councilmember Chin?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank you all. I want to thank city leadership and your staff. This was a well thought out, well planned, and comprehensive approach, and you hit all the elements. You thought about how much it would cost and how we would pay for it, in addition to the entire city area. So I appreciate that. I also want to thank our residents for their input and ask for their continued patience as we roll this out and get it right. So really just thanks and appreciation, and just a procedural clarification. We're not approving anything tonight. We're just giving direction.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that our attorney feels comfortable with that clarification.
That is correct, Councilmember
Okay.
Chin, absolutely.
Great, thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you for the clarification as well. Councilmember Keating?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you to the members of the public that came to speak, and those that, well, at least David virtually too. He always has some great thoughts. The first responsibility of any government is public safety, right? And I love what you guys have done with kind of outlining first the need for some changes, the need for some new strategies, as we've seen not only street racing, but just vehicle, severe accidents kind of tick up in the city despite our best efforts. So certainly it is very warranted that we take additional actions to help make the streets of the city of Tempe safer for all that use them. I love that you're working with our neighboring cities that have employed some of these tactics. So maybe we can learn some best practices from them, do some partnership working together. I know that some cities, for example, say you get cited in Chandler for photo radar, but I live in Tempe. They're not necessarily coming to give me that ticket. Maybe there's something we can do to ensure that if you're cited in Tempe, that we make some sort of effort to get you that ticket, because Tempe for a large population is kind of a pass-through city. They come from Chandler, Gilbert to get to their jobs in Phoenix or vice versa. So we just want to make sure that our streets are safe for our residents and people that are also passing through. So I think that would be great as well. One of the things I don't think you guys touched on, you may not have this, so it's okay if you don't, but is there any timeline as far as when you're going to come back with a potential contract? Once that contract is approved, when would the rollout and implementation setup, those kind of things be?
Yes, sir. Right now, we are hoping to get the contract in front of you on May 21st. The day after it is signed, we will go to work with Vera, and Vera is the mobility. They'll roll out what they believe is a 90-day timeline to get the infrastructure in place, and also we'll be doing all the things that we need to do to prepare the public for the things that are coming. Our courts, as well as our police department, will hire their employees during that period of time, train, et cetera. And what it looks like will be rolling out is a 30-day warning period after that. You'll get warned, and then we would go live. So that's how it should roll out. And again, we're planning for the 21st to come in front of you with the contract.
Great, so we're looking, mid to end of summer?
Yes.
Potentially. Oh, okay, no, that's great. Thank you very much for putting this together. I think this is helpful, and it's something that we've heard a lot from that our residents want. They want to feel safer on the roads, and certainly I can speak to Councilor or Vice Mayor Adams's point about street racing down in her neighborhood. I live a little bit north of her, but used to hear it every single night. And it's definitely tacked down quite a bit, though I'd still do hear it every now and then. So I do appreciate PD's efforts on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hodge?
I just have one more question. I know I asked about the schools, but how is ASU going to be encompassing this, in their areas? Are they going to be working with us with the task force and, in their areas? What's going on with ASU? Is it going to be a combined conjunction when they do with their policing, or is it just us in general working with this?
The cameras will be ours. That is with the cameras, the citation part of it, that will be the city of Tempe. It's
No,
our
I'm
contract.
also talking
Okay.
about the racing, because I know there's
Oh.
there's ASU students that are racing too, so I'm just
Yeah,
wondering.
So we have a good relationship with ASU, and there's a couple things that we've done in the past with them. One of those is an educational series for the fraternity members that are there, and that's about we used to do about 1,500 to 2,000. We still do it, and so that's one aspect of it that we can go in there and start teaching more to that group. Oh, sorry about that. So the other aspect is that we've brought up a couple times is that, I don't know if people know this, but when you get a bicycle, like a bicycle ticket, jaywalking ticket, or something like that, you can go to a diversion program in the city of Tempe for that and get the ticket wiped off. I think it's like $50. It's a 45-minute video, and then you answer a few questions and you're good. But it gives you all the rules of the road. We have absolutely noticed, because of the congested, obviously, on University, Lemon, all rural road, right, of how we are extremely concerned for bicycle, scooter, and ped safety on that roadway. But once again, that's an educational component. We go out, we get about $30,000 a year to do that kind of enforcement, and it's a drop in the bucket for the amount of people that are committing those violations. We all drive through it every day. So one of the things that we've been talking to people, and even at the Transportation Commission, we've talked to some people from ASU there, is having the ability, and this will be kind of one of the next steps to try to get this as an educational component is, and we've had some meetings with them and they seem interested in it, but what if everybody, when you were a freshman there, you went and you had to see that 45-minute class in that, and give them right off the bat as going to ASU, have that educational component in there. So that's one of the things that we've committed on the police department side to try to work with ASU to try to get this inserted into their programming. We have a lot of issues with international students as well that are living off campus Broadway and all these places that they ride against the flow of traffic all the time in different ways. They just don't understand exactly the laws of what they are, right? So there's huge educational components that we can tap into ASU that I think will make a vast difference. We just have to be able to get in there and get it done. So we're going to try to work hard on getting that done this year.
Okay, so don't laugh at this question, but what about those driveless cars? Because I've seen one of them cars almost hit somebody, and that was a traffic thing within itself. So what do we do with those? What are we doing? Are we finding the corporation? What's going on with that? Because I've literally seen somebody had to run across the street because they almost got hit by one.
In the past, I would have to look specifically, but in the past year and a half, I haven't found any of them where they were the vehicle that was at fault in the collision.
Yeah.
There very well could be, and I just missed it potentially, but there's two things that we do with autonomous vehicles is we not only have an officer assigned to work with Waymo and all the different companies specifically, there's a liaison, a law enforcement liaison, so they work with that person, but there's also a state liaison that works with all of them, that we are on that. They have just started a task force, so we're going to start going to those meetings too, to see all the different issues. We have more of an issue with autonomous vehicles at this point right now, being confused at emergency scenes.
Okay.
And so what do we do with these cars that have no driver in it? We're trying to get them out of an emergency scene, right?
Okay.
And but yes, we're trying to work with different groups from these vehicles, but I can surely find out how many were at fault. I don't recognize.
No, I
that
know,
were
but
a lot.
I literally was right there and I saw it.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't get hit, but they could have just as easily. So
Yes.
I'm just want to making sure somebody got to be enforced for it. Also, I just want to say that I'm approve of both the photo enforcement and the city lead neighbor traffic calming. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Navarro?
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick question on the cameras. You mentioned the group you want to entertain going with. I know we've done this in the past. Do we have anything like a year's time to, hey, if this is working out great, we continue on? I mean, is there some guidelines to the contract if we do go down that route? I know you guys, this is early, but.
We can't, we're restricted by the language that is in the Scottsdale contract, so we'll have to go with that. So we can't change or stipulate anything, but it is a 2-year contract with 1-year renewals.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes, real quick. Can you describe how the Real-Time Operations Center will help us with this situation with all the speeding and?
Yeah.
I just so the public knows. I understand, but it's like to us to speak to that.
Yeah, the Real-Time Operations Center, I would say it's our kickoff. We're going to start with our traffic cameras to start off with.
Okay.
Proactively, obviously, we, as you saw in the slideshow today, the engineering department, transportation department has their own, what do you call that center? What was it again?
Active traffic management.
Yeah, so they have their own center there, but we will be viewing the cameras in the RTOC.
Okay.
And so we will be able to do some proactive work. They're doing proactive work in the intersection. Then from the reactionary work or the react to the real-time type stuff, we'll be able to evaluate accidents as they occur in the real time, be able to communicate with the responding crews, be able to upgrade assignments from that, recommend upgrading to the responding fire units, et cetera. So there's a lot of work we're going to be able to do. I think the real key piece, besides the proactive work that that comes out of there in a real-time operations center, is the ability to have somebody there on scene with a mouse click.
Yes.
And start to make actions and make decisions. And those actions and decisions may support shutting units down. When you talk about the way our city is, traffic congestion, having our emergency vehicles running code 3, which we need them to do for emergencies, is extremely important. That's why we've invested in the traffic lights and the ability to change the lights and all of that. But being able to shut those units down is extremely valuable to the roadways, to our responders, or its safety, if you ask me. So, yeah.
Sure. So we are just raising the bar 1,000 levels.
In so
with
many ways.
All of these things.
In so many ways,
So I
yes.
just want the public to understand that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely raising the bar in so many ways, not just in fighting crime.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, any other comments or questions? So same thing, everyone said everything already. I'm in complete agreement with moving forward with all the items that you laid out. So do I have consensus from council to have staff move forward with all of this? Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, appreciate it. Great work. That brings us to item 3B, fiscal year 2024-25 budget review session. Good evening, Tom and Lisette.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, members of the council. Tom Dunsing, Chief Deputy City Manager and Chief Financial Officer. And to my right is Lisette Camacho, Financial Services Director. So we're here tonight seeking feedback on the first look at the city manager's recommended capital and operating budget, and certainly here to answer any questions. We also want to specifically ask about an item on the upcoming November 2024 general obligation bond election. I've got a slide dedicated to that, and I'll take a brief pause when I get to that slide, and we can discuss it. So if I can, I'd like to frame the discussion here with a few points. The vast majority of what you're going to see tonight, council's already seen. The budget process is a year-round process. Council sets priorities. We develop budgets around those priorities. We've discussed them. We've taken a look at the capital improvement program that was presented to council back on March 25th, March 25th. And so what we just have tonight is a summary and a few slides highlighting what's in the capital improvement program in the packet. This budget that you're going to see, the operating side of it, is consistent with our long-range financial forecast. We do that twice a year, and the very simple use of that long-range financial forecast is to assume, or is to assure we can pay for our services. It's that simple. So this operating budget that you're going to see is within the parameters of the long-range forecast that we have presented. Lisette's going to talk a little bit about public feedback. We've got a very robust public outreach process in our budget, and overall, the message is we are maintaining our service levels. One of the unfortunate things that happened last year is the passage of the residential rental tax restriction. We are losing about $21 million citywide in residential rental tax. So what we had to do is go back and determine, and we've talked about this in front of the council before, what are we going to do to absorb the impact of that? This budget is built around absorbing the impact of the loss of residential rental. Now, the main story there is no budget supplementals for a period of 3 years. And what does that mean? That means we are here to maintain service levels. So when we do things like what was presented before you, Vision Zero, we have to do it within the resources that we already have. We're able to do that, and that's why we're here. We're here to figure these things out, deliver the programs, but we also have to stay within our available resources. Lastly, just a couple thank yous. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the budget staff. They boiled down a tremendous amount of information. This is a 5-6 month process of getting information and boiling it down so we can get to council and present the highlights of this and certainly take any feedback. That's Lori Ozakowski, Kevin D. Domenico, Scott Gruber, and our new budget analyst, Carrie Taylor. Also, the person to my right, she stepped up. This is not her role, is to step up and be a budget director. She has stepped up. She volunteered to do this. So special thanks to Lisette Camacho for doing that. So I really appreciate it. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lisette, and we'll split duties here and get your direction. And I'll make a few closing comments.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Today's presentation, as well as our public-facing budget process, contribute to our goal of transparency and financial reporting and disclosure of information aligned with council priorities, strong community connections, and performance measure 2.11. As Tom mentioned, the city's budget is developed in a public-facing process. Listed on this slide are the key public meeting dates as we continue to move through the budget process. Tonight is the budget review session to present the city manager's recommended budget for fiscal year 2025. On May 2nd, we have a budget follow-up session if needed. After that, we'll go through the state statute requirements to adopt the tentative budget on May 21st, adoption of the final budget on June 6th, as well as the first public hearing on the property tax levy. On June 27th is the second public hearing on the property tax levy. This slide is a summary of the public outreach we've done to develop the budget for fiscal year 2025. We had the online Tempe Forum open for 5 weeks from February to the first week in March. We also attended, in collaboration with MIAC, the Regional Unity Walk. We also had a virtual and in-person public meeting to discuss the budget. And we had information on our website, tempe.gov budget plan. We also informed residents about the upcoming budget meetings and online resources via Tempe Today, press releases, and social media apps.
Mayor and Council, summary of the input that we got is included in the packet.
So as far as the online Tempe Forum, we received 402 responses. In comparison to last year, we had 351 responses. Residents were asked 2 questions. The first one is, how should the city invest in advancing its strategic priorities? As you can see here, the number 1 response is quality of life, followed by safe and secure communities, financial stability and vitality, sustainable growth and development, and strong community connections. The second question we asked our residents is, if they had a theoretical $100, how would they spend the money on services? As you can see, the top 5 are crime prevention programs, city and neighborhood park improvements, investments in fire and medical rescue to improve calls for services, homeless services, and also maintaining the city's streets and sidewalks. This slide is a high-level overview of the total operating budget, which is $816.6 million. That is an increase of 12.3% or $89.4 million over fiscal year 2024. As Tom mentioned earlier, the budget is consistent with the long-range forecast and the budget strategies presented to Council last February. The operating budget includes provisions for employee compensation, including cost of living and market increases, salary and step range movement, and other benefit provisions. The operating budget also includes retirement system contributions and other post-employment benefits. Contingency is budgeted for emergencies in each of the major operating funds. The operating budget also reflects the reorganization of Education, Career, and Family Services Office into the Community Health and Human Services Department, and the Engineering and Transportation Department has been split into the new Public Works Department and the new Transportation and Sustainability Department. As Tom mentioned, the loss of residential rental impact, the city manager's requests for supplementals and CIP operating impacts are very limited. In the operating budget, the net supplemental increase is $4.8 million across all funds, but it is offset by $1.6 million in expenditure reductions or new revenue sources for a total net impact of $3.2 million. Tom will provide more details about the supplementals in the next 2 slides. Actually, this slide is mine too. And as you can see in this slide, this is a comparison between the adopted fiscal year 2024 budget and the fiscal year 2025 recommended budget. You'll see a lot of positive changes here, and for those funds, the increases in the budget can be attributed to additions to the budget via the budget supplemental process, which will be covered by Tom in the next slide. Also includes employee compensation increases and contractual and supply increases for things like fuel and electricity. The reduction you see in the solid waste fund of 0.9, the numbers are in millions, is due to the relocation of the alley inspection program to the Community Development Department. This is offset by reduced transfer from the general fund to support the program. And with that, I'll turn over the presentation to Mr. Dunsing.
Thank you, Lisette. Just real quick, I'd like to highlight the budget supplemental request that we are recommending approval. And one of the things I'd like to note is that net fiscal impact, that really is the budgetary impact of our supplemental request. And if you look at the general fund, it's $1.33 million, and that is relative to a total citywide budget of $816 million. That's how much we pulled back on supplemental requests. And like we've said a couple times, this is necessary so we can absorb the impact of the loss of residential rental revenue. I've got a slide on the general fund supplementals in detail. The only other fund with, I won't even call it significant, but over $1 million in supplemental requests are water and wastewater fund, 1.12 million. So again, we talked about it a little earlier. This general fund budget, I'm going to get in the general fund a little bit, this general fund budget was framed around our 5-year financial forecast. Very simply, what it does is determine, are we living within our means? And I can tell you this budget that we are presenting is within our means. It's that simple. And so what we do is we use this as a guide. We do our forecast twice a year, so it's an iterative model. If we're seeing revenues are growing, we can make necessary expenditure adjustments. Sometimes we're able to add things. If our revenues are contracting, it may even be necessary to make expenditure adjustments the other way. But the idea is to do this twice a year to make sure that any upcoming year budget decisions are consistent with what we can afford. So a couple highlights, we've hit on these already. The overall message is we are here to maintain the service levels. In other words, no budget supplemental increases, no department generated budget supplementals. There are a couple in the general fund that you saw on the previous slide. What those are is the real-time operations center. We need software for a couple $100,000 in order to be able to operate the RTOC. The other is we've got a contractual agreement to staff a Novus fire station. What Tempe Fire Medical Rescue has agreed to do is to not do it all at once, but do it over a period of 3 years. That was included, and we've presented that to council on the long-range forecast, and that's still, we're sticking with that plan. As Lisette talked about, there are a couple of reorganizations. We have basically eliminated a department and eliminated an office. Engineering and transportation was I won't say it was split in two, but it was divided based on functions. Part of it went to our newly formed Public Works Department, which was previously the Municipal Utilities Department. So when you see department comparative information, you'll see, you know, it should make sense where we had a prior year budget for MU, this year it's zero. Well, it's due to the reorganizations. Also, part of it went to our newly formed Transportation and Sustainability Department under Eric Iverson's direction, and it was formerly the Sustainability Office. So Engineering and Transportation Department was eliminated. Also, the Education, Career, and Family Services Office was eliminated. Those functions were absorbed into our Community Health and Human Services Department under Director Tim Birch. So let's talk a little bit about the total capital budget. Prior year was $621 million. The recommendation is $762 million. I can tell you the majority of that increase is we are recommending appropriation of contingency. And simply what that means is if there are federal grants available, we're going to aggressively go after federal grants. We basically have to have the appropriation to be able to spend that. However, if we don't get the grant, we don't spend the budget. It's that simple. So, but in order to be able to accommodate significant grants that we're going after, we need to request the appropriation. The other thing I would say in that is we've got a rather significant project, our Tempe Municipal Operations Center. That's a large $100 million project, and there's a big piece of carry forward. So a big chunk of this increase is to complete the Tempe Municipal Operations Center. Here's a comparison by fund. You can see the two funds the three funds that really stick out: water, wastewater, the transportation, and the general purpose. Again, general purpose, I talked about the Tempe Municipal Operations Center. Transportation, the reason for the increase is gearing up on our pavement quality, the effort that we've been in front of council many times to discuss. And water, wastewater, it's simply to make that capital investment necessary. They're not sexy projects, but they're absolutely necessary to determine we've got a safe and functioning water and sewer system. So just a few capital budget highlights, and one of the big highlights in here, you see asterisk to the right of these. Basically what we have, even though council is approving these, a lot of these big projects are contingent on the November 2024 general obligation bond election. I've got the next slide sort of summarizes or talks about the GO bond election. But just some things to highlight. I talked about the water, wastewater, to just improve the quality and maintain our infrastructure. We have increased, and we've been before council to talk about our historic preservation efforts. We've talked about our PQI acceleration, our affordable housing. You'll see affordable housing specifically called out in a separate question on the next slide. Talked about the real-time operations center. This is just to finish or to complete that project, even though it's going to be up and running very shortly. Completion of Fire Station 2 and the kickoff of Fire Station 8, that's on the property that was donated in the Novus Innovation Corridor. And finally, in the CIP is we do have the North Tempe Police Facility, a significant project in our CIP. And so this slide, Mayor and Council, what I'd like to do is talk about this slide. I'll go to the last slide and then come back to this, because this is really, we're looking for specific direction on this slide. And what you see on the left are the GO bond election categories that were typically on the election when voters went to the polls to approve or not approve to vote for or against our GO bond program. So before, there were really 5 categories broken down: public safety, street improvements, park improvements, municipal infrastructure. So what we are recommending is, and we've worked with our investment banker, we worked with our bond attorneys, we've looked at other city ballots, we looked to see what makes sense. What we are recommending is that public safety, street improvements, and storm drains and PQI acceleration be included in a bond question called Enhanced Community through Public Safety and Roadway Improvements. Park improvements and community service projects and municipal infrastructure projects, that's just the municipal infrastructure that we own, we have to take care of. For example, this building, include that in improved quality of life in Tempe neighborhoods, bond question. And finally, a separate question for affordable housing, the $32 million program that we outlined in Mayor and Council, and in a bond question called Increased Supply of Affordable Housing. And Mayor and Council, if I could, I'd like to go to the last slide, and I'll come back and take any comments on this slide. Once we receive consensus tonight on our ballot question, it's our intent to bring a resolution forward at next week's April 25th regular council meeting for the call for election for November 5th. So real quick, I just want to thank the departments. This is a monumental effort, and it's a monumental effort when there are pressures to address issues in the public, but the resources are limited. Departments pulled together. My peers in the Keith and Greg and Ms. Inchausti embraced this. Not only did they understand it, they championed for very limited resources, and we're able to figure out ways to do things like RTOC. That's not understanding, that's simple leadership, and that is very appreciated. I've done this for 34 years, and I've never seen it like this. So it is a testament to the leadership, and so I really appreciate it. And so before I open it up for questions, if we could go back, Mayor, to the previous slide, and any feedback council has, and if we're okay proceeding forward, including the potential ballot questions on the right in next week's at next week's regular council meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tom. I'm totally good with this. Council, any other comments? Everyone good? Okay, so we're good with the ballot questions. Great. Thank you.
Great. And with that, I've got departments here. They're ready to discuss if there are any questions. If not, as Ms. Camacho explained, we now go through the regulatory process, the posting and the public hearings, and finally it's a couple of month process.
Okay, thank you very much. I got a couple of questions from Council. Vice Mayor Adams and Councilmember DeVar.
Yes, I love it that we combined the departments. It makes sense to me, and it saves money, and you know how I like to watch the money. So expert job on that. So I appreciate that. Also, do we have people in our organization that are experts in grant writing?
Mayor, members of the council, one of the things that we did last year when we had, before residential rental was reduced, we actually had a budget supplemental that was approved by mayor and council for just that. So we do have a full-time position dedicated to our grants.
Okay, that's great, because I know there's a certain art to doing the grant writing, and so that's
absolutely
music to my ears, because we can get a lot of money in grants, and we're going to have to depend on that with our tightening of the budgets. And also, another question, is ASU helping with the Novus Fire Station financially?
Mayor, members of council, I'm not aware of the details of that agreement. I know one of the things they did is they donated land, which is probably one of the biggest costs when you're putting in a fire station. So it's land we didn't have to pay for to build the fire station. I'm not aware of the operational details. It's something that we're going to have to address in the upcoming years. And I'm not sure if Chief Ruiz is here to answer that, but if not, we can certainly get information back to you, and I'm sure if ASU has an obligation, they will absolutely step up and do it.
Yeah, and I think even if we don't currently have an obligation from them, maybe we should try to get some more money out of them, since we have the $20 million deficit that was not anticipated, thanks to our state legislature. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember DeVar.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just quickly. Tom, Lynette, I know you guys have been doing this for a while. Tom, I know you have been doing it tremendously. And the experiences that you have probably addressed 2008 going on up and just kind of knowing the critical factors that we have to do and achieve. I just want to say thank you. I mean, obviously you guys did a great report utilizing the fact that we're not getting money through our rental tax and we're anticipating the plans for that. We're staying within status quo, so to speak. We do have the bond election coming up. Hopefully that's a big help for us going forward. But I just want to recognize, the strategic work through you have gone through this. And like I said, your experience, your vast experience on this and what you guys had to deal with, I think, and I'm fully in trust, especially with 2 cities you've worked at, that we're in great hands. And I just want to tell you, I appreciate what you guys have done. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on council? Just my quick thing as well, this is excellent work, and what I've always appreciated about the work Tom, you and Lisette do is that it's extremely thorough, you're open and accountable to residents, the information is presented in a very transparent fashion, whether it's the bond questions or just the financials in general, and you have a very tough task ahead of you. You've talked about that with losing that residential rental tax money, which is through no fault of anyone here in this room, but you found a way to manage and not talk about cutting staff or cutting back the services that our residents have come to enjoy and frankly should enjoy. So I appreciate everything you've done, but it's also just my personal thing. I'm not naturally a numbers person. I understand them, but at the end of the day, the way you actually both talk about them is in a way that anyone can frankly understand. I understand exactly when you both talk to me about the budget and what the long-range forecast looks like or how we actually craft the bond questions and exactly what that looks like as well. And so I just appreciate not just simply the work that you've put in and the expertise that you bring to the table, but also the way that you frankly present the information, not just to the council, but frankly to the public in a way that's transparent and very easy to digest. I just wanted to say thank you for all of your exceptional work. Thank you both.
Appreciate that, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up on the agenda is item 3C, Energy Equity Program Update. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm Brianne Fisher. I'm the Climate Action Manager for the Sustainability and Resilience Office.
And I'm Andy Escobar, and I serve as the Energy Equity Coordinator for the Sustainability and Resilience Office.
Today, we're here to provide you an update on some of our office's work as it relates to residential energy use. Nobody from council has seen this information or heard about this initiative, so we just wanted to provide you all an update. We will be coming back to you later this year with an ask for more specific direction and feedback. And because energy equity might not be a familiar term, just want to start by providing a little bit of a definition. So energy equity to us means to promote the policies and programs informed by the community's input and designed to meet the needs of all individuals in relation to accessible and affordable residential energy. This work relates directly to performance measure 4.18, community carbon neutrality. And just as a refresher, we conduct a greenhouse gas inventory every 5 years, starting in 2015. We'll have another one for 2025. This helps us track our progress on this performance measure. And the graph shows that our 2 largest emitters are coming from transportation, outlined in the blue, and energy from the built environment in orange. As you can see on the green square in the middle of the slide, we broke down the energy use from the built environment into the commercial, industrial, and residential use. Today, we are specifically focusing on that 16% coming from the residential sector. And we're focusing on the residential sector first because this council and our office has a shared focus on climate justice. Preparing for a future with continued extreme heat requires us to pay attention to history, infrastructure investments, and how we support residents who have not typically been at the table. A good way to start to address climate justice is to understand our community's energy burden. Energy burden reduces, energy burden is the percentage of income spent on home energy bills. Our office worked with the GIS team to better understand Tempe's energy burden. And as you can see on the map on the screen, the darker areas show that there is a higher percentage of energy burden, and those energy burden with a 3% rate. This work also traces back to the Climate Action Plan update that Council approved in 2022. During that engagement process, we heard from residents about their struggles with affording energy bills and wanting more support, especially with rising utility rates and energy consumption records being broken. We believe it's important that our residents can afford to cool their home. The work we're doing helps residents to have more energy efficient homes, which lowers utility prices, keeps them safe in their home, and contributes to a cleaner environment. Or in other words, addressing that 16% that was on the previous slide. And Andy, with me, is gonna show you just exactly how we're doing that work.
So to dedicate more time to these conversations and understanding of the challenges and the type of support residents need, we have created a climate justice advisory group to seek further feedback from community members. Through this series of bilingual workshops, we will gather input from residents to co-create an energy equity roadmap that will outline the direction of programs, policies, and infrastructure recommendations related to their home and neighborhood needs. City partners include Community Health and Human Services and Tempe Community Action Agency. Community partners include Chispa Arizona and Rail CDC, who are helping with recruitment and facilitation. Both organizations focus on sustainability efforts in the region with a particular emphasis on supporting socioeconomically and climate vulnerable populations. We really appreciate our partner support and are really grateful for their commitment to this work. So the primary geographic focus area for this initiative encompasses the Alegre, Escalante, and Victory Acres neighborhoods, as well as adjacent areas with an understanding that this work may engage with community members from other areas of the city. The targeted focus is based on the city's heat priority scores and federal government data on energy burden, which prioritizes areas of Tempe that are more susceptible to the effects of extreme heat and experience higher energy burden. Again, energy burden is calculated as the percentage of household income that goes toward energy costs. After the conclusion of the workshop series, public meetings will be held with at-large Tempe residents to present and gather feedback about the proposed energy equity roadmap. Feedback from the larger public meetings will be used to add to and enhance the recommended investments. I also want to note that the targeted approach in this geographic area is part of a broader effort the Sustainability and Resilience Office is working on, complementing other initiatives such as the Envision Center, the Resilience Hub Network, and Grow Local Tempe. You may recall Maddie Mercer's presentation last fall about local food initiatives and urban agriculture, which highlighted our efforts to improve food access in the community. Additionally, we are actively engaging with community members to address high heat vulnerability and enhance overall community resilience. So prior to holding these workshops, we've held conversations with Community Health and Human Services, TCAA, SRP, Arizona Department of Housing, and Maricopa County's Human Services Department about their program offerings and have shared those resources with residents at workshops. So far, we have held 3 workshops, and here is some of the feedback we have received. Residents emphasize the importance of raising awareness about the challenges they're facing, especially for our most disadvantaged community members. Other interests include educational opportunities to learn about energy savings and energy efficiency tips. Additionally, help with energy-related costs was frequently voiced, as well as gaining an understanding of the building standards, codes, and tree shade requirements for multifamily housing. Residents have also shared barriers they face to meeting their basic home energy needs and how some don't qualify for existing programs. There are resources available for utility assistance and weatherization, including programs from the city, county, state, and utilities. However, not everyone meets the eligibility criteria. There are different reasons for this, like not meeting income requirements, not owning their home, or not being a resident. Some programs also have limited funds or complicated application processes, like only being online and in English, which makes it hard for people to access the help they need. We will continue to hold the remainder of the workshops and gather further feedback to co-develop solutions with our most heat-vulnerable community members. Our goal is to find pathways for those in need of policy, programming, and infrastructure solutions, which is what the roadmap is pursuing. So while we continue to listen and plan, we are also showing action. The Sustainability and Resilience Office is receiving a Department of Energy grant and using that federal money to fund a small-scale mobile home retrofit pilot that will pay for weatherization and energy efficiency upgrades for mobile home residents. Mobile homes are the focus because it aligns with federal data and grant guidelines regarding equity requirements, and according to research from Arizona State University, mobile homes are some of the most vulnerable to extreme heat, as they account for 40% of indoor heat-associated deaths, while only making up 5% of the total housing stock in Arizona. So next steps include piloting the mobile home retrofit program this year. Activities include community outreach, application intakes, and having a hired contractor perform the necessary services. We will update Mayor and Council on the outcome. Other next steps involve concluding the Climate Justice Advisory Group workshops, conducting citywide feedback, and refining the roadmap. Then we plan to present the finalized energy equity roadmap to Mayor and Council and seek your guidance regarding the layers of funding needed to support these initiatives. With that, we will take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Really appreciate it. Vice Mayor Adams? Sure. Anyone else, any comments or questions? Okay, I guess right now then, so. Thank you, Vice, sorry about that.
That's okay, no worries. So I have some questions. This is a great presentation, by the way. Thank you very much. Do we have any plans to reach out to the neighborhoods that are in our higher users, like our neighborhood program or outreach or anything like that, to like do some education with the areas that have the higher use?
Higher use in terms of energy burden?
Yes.
I
believe
yes.
It was Escalante area. Yep, right. That's what I'm referring to.
Yes, so we are targeting the northeast part of Tempe. As you can see in this slide here, they test high for energy burden, and they also test first and second for our heat priority scores. We are working primarily in this area. Many of the residents who live in this area also participated in the engagement process of the Climate Action Plan update, and many of the residents were part of the climate justice agenda talks from which this work stems out of. So it's coincidentally the same group of residents that we are engaging, but we are having these workshops with an understanding that other residents from other parts of Tempe will join us. And then once we finalize the focus group discussions, we will take those proposed policies, programming, and infrastructure, and hold public meetings with at-large Tempe residents.
Okay, I was thinking kind of a door-to-door approach, because not everyone can attend meetings and things. I do have the Tempe Trees for Tempe, and that might be something to educate them on, because if we want to lower costs, trees are a great way to do it. So I would just, whatever we can do to make that happen, I think that would be helpful. Also, I like the mobile home grant for that. That's perfect. What I was talking about with grants earlier, this is a great example of good usage of grants. So good job on that. All right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Great presentation. And yeah, that mobile home statistic was staggering. So. Next up, item 3D, Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnership, Emergency Solutions Grant, and Community Action Program Accomplishments and Fiscal Year 2024-25 Proposed Activities. I will look to staff for a presentation. I think, Irma, that's you again.
Don't sit down too long.
Good evening, Mayor Woods, council members, city manager in Chowsty. I'm Irma Holland Buchanan with the Community Health and Human Services Department, and joining me tonight is Sherry Rico. We are here to talk to you about how, or detail the activities of how we plan to fund, what we plan to fund with Community Development Block Grant, the Home Investment Partnership Grant, and our Emergency Solutions Grant. So the activities performed by Community Health and Human Services and that we're going to talk about this evening touch on these 3 city council priorities. So the purpose of today is to propose the upcoming fiscal year CDBG home ESG priorities and activities as required by HUD. A progress report of the prior year was provided to you in your agenda packet. This is the first of 2 public meetings to be held on April 25th and then May 9th to discuss our city's annual action plan. And by the way, we're entering into the 5th year of our consolidated plan. So the priority needs listed to the top of the slide were identified through a rigorous public participation process. They are affordable rental housing, affordable home ownership programming, programming to address homelessness, as well as public services. And so the programs the Housing Division recommends funding are directly aligned with the priority needs and are listed to the bottom of the slide. And they are homeless prevention, emergency assistance, housing assistance, housing repair, and housing development and reconstruction. Over the next 3 slides, Sherry's going to outline by grant fund the specific priorities and funding amounts that the Housing Division recommends.
This slide talks about our CDBG, our Community Block Grant Program proposed activities. The Community Development Block Grant funds are provided by HUD on an annual basis based on a formula. This flexible program allows us to provide decent housing and expand economic development opportunities for low to moderate income Tempeans. All activities undertaken with the CDBG funds must meet one of 3 national objectives. They have to be low mod income, slum and blight, or urgent need. The activities that we are suggesting are our program administration, emergency home repair, acquisition of affordable housing, supportive services for our shelter, workforce development, and a new program that we have is Real Promise. That is in partnership with education, and that will provide stipends to adult learners to go to Rio Salado in order to earn a certificate to increase their earnings. These should be noted that these are all estimated dollar amounts because we don't have our funding allocation from HUD yet for this coming year. Okay, our next slide is for the home program. Our home funds are provided by HUD also on an annual basis, also based on a formula. This program is designed exclusively to create affordable housing. Our intended uses for these funds are program administration, our continued TBRA rental assistance program. We have some new money that came in through the county for home ARPA in order to acquire a shelter and provide supportive services at that shelter. So our estimated allocation is $2.8 million for home. ESG is our emergency shelter, no it's not, emergency solutions grant funds. These are designed to assist people with quickly regaining stability and permanent housing after experiencing a housing crisis or homelessness. Our activities that we are proposing are program administration, shelter operations. Rapid rehousing is a program where we partner with Care 7 and TCAA to provide emergency housing to victims of domestic violence. Our estimated allocation for FY25 is $158,000. Our last program is Community Service Block Grant. These funds are provided by the Department of Health and Human Services, and these programs are all run in a partnership with TCAA. The first portion is the CAB office operations that reflects emergency rental assistance and emergency utility assistance to Tempeans. We also QC, quality control, their files to make sure that they're meeting all the necessarily guidelines set out by the county. The Food Insecurity Grant helps them operate their food pantry as well as provide food boxes to our shelter. Our estimated allocation for that is $524,000 for next year.
So that concludes our presentation for this evening. We're available for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the presentation. Council, any comments or questions?
Yes, great presentation again.
Yeah, wonderful.
Two for two tonight.
Exactly.
Thank
No,
you.
I don't have anything either. Thank you again. Appreciate it. All right, the next item on the agenda is the call to the audience for committee of the whole items. There are no items ready for city council direction or status update this evening, so I will close that item. Next up, item 5B, council committees in progress, updates as needed. Are there any updates, council members, on items 5B1, 5B2, or 5B3? Councilmember Hodge.
No, I just want to say that our next committee meeting is Monday, April 29th at 3 p.m.
All right, thank you so much.
And it's virtual, so it will be not in the chamber, it'll be fully virtual.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. Councilmember Chin.
Thank you, Mayor. The Sustainability and Economic Vitality Committee will meet tomorrow at 1 o'clock in council chambers and can also be accessed virtually.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much. Any other announcements on items 5B1, 5B2, or 5B3? All right, seeing that, I'll move on to item number 6, future agenda items. Members of the City Council may request that an agenda item be added to a future issue review session, but in accordance with the open meeting law, there should be no discussion on the item other than to clarify the request.
Okay.
Councilmember Hodge.
Yes, I would like to ask for a future agenda item. I would like to bring in ordinance, the brass knuckle ordinance that they have for the city of Gilbert and also in Green Creek, it's for student violence against, anti-buy-in brass knuckles for violence. But I have information. I just want to also say that we have no problems in the city of Tempe with that. We want to be proactive. We don't have to be reactive. So I just want to bring that ordinance.
Okay, sounds good. I'll look, Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Any other future agenda items that council members would like added? All right, hearing none. The next item on the agenda is mayor's announcements and city manager's announcements. I don't have any this evening. Madam City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do not.
Okay, sounds good. That brings us to item number 8, which is adjournment. The next scheduled work study session is going to be on May 2nd, 2024. We are adjourned. Have a good evening.